All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Now, you look at things right now, and the landscape in the Western Conference of the NBA has really changed in the past couple of days. You look at it, the injury that was suffered by Lakers small forward LeBron James has really changed things. It's a situation where you look at it, I see it, things have really just got muddled a little bit more for me. I mean, we already talked about it in regards to the Lakers. They are the defending champions. You cannot take anything away from them on that aspect. I see it now. Obviously, there are going to be some teams that are going to like try to take advantage of this. Right now, the biggest thing for the Lakers to try to do is to come back as healthy as possible for the postseason. That's the biggest factor. I mean, you talk about the Anthony Davis injury. We also look at the injury now to LeBron. It's a high ankle sprain, and when you see that happen, it's a situation where hey, that that's not an easy injury to go ahead and and navigate all by itself. So it's going to take some time to try to get that done. And the Lakers are going to have they got a tough road ahead of them. And I'm happy that I got my man Cal coming in to talk with me about this. For the next couple of minutes. Cal, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing today, William? What's up, big brother? How you making out, man?
Listen, brother, things are doing good. I'm doing good. I know that you're doing good, but do you think the Lakers are doing good right now?
Well, let's talk about the Lakers a little bit. I think the Lakers would be okay. I think this is a blessing in disguise for the Lakers for two reasons. First off, with LeBron being hurt and I told you yesterday, high ankle sprain about 3.5 weeks, 3.5 weeks. They talk about now it's going to be like 6 weeks or something like that. Like they just extended it out there. I don't believe that. I think that's phony baloney, if you ask me. I believe that though the Lakers, the players that they have not named AD or LeBron are gonna have to show what they're worth now. Those guys that got this little bit of money, these guys that were definitely pointed out and they were targeted by the Lakers, they now got to prove themselves. So that's one thing. So the Lakers will find out what they have. Number two, if they slip in the standings, they just go to the middle of the pack. And with them at the middle of the pack, they would have a better chance maneuvering through the playoffs, if you ask me, than going straight up, you know what I'm saying, as a one, as a 2 or 3 at this point. Because the matchups they don't want to see back there, and I'm going to take a look real quick at my papers. And the last three for the Lakers are the Blazers, the Spurs, and the Mavs. All right. I think they match up better, you know, with a 4 or 5 seed. That could be the Clippers or somebody like that. Because at the end of the day, to me, the Nuggets, as it stands right now, the Lakers and the Nuggets right now. And I don't think the Lakers want to see that matchup. So I think as they slide in the standings, William, they'll be, they'll be okay. They'll be okay. I don't think they're in trouble.
Right. I mean, I look at it, it's a situation, 3.5 weeks, like they're saying now. You said they're pushing it back to 6. I think the Lakers are going to be very cautious with LeBron, and I think LeBron is going to be very cautious with LeBron as well, because you look at it, LeBron knows this on the table. LeBron can do his thing in the regular season. We've been witness to that since 2003. But LeBron knows that his legacy is going to be cemented by what he does or does not do in the postseason. So of course,
Absolutely.
LeBron wants to be at 100% a top, his physical peak when the postseason rolls around. Ankle
Right.
sprains, sometimes they take a little bit longer to heal. They can be tricky sometimes. LeBron is he's a physically gifted specimen. Make no mistake about it. So he's going to get
Right.
the
No
best
question.
treatment in the world. I'm sure he probably has a hyperbaric chamber, things like that.
Mhm.
To help, strengthen those ligaments going forward. So they're going to be extra cautious. We know that they're going to be extra cautious with Anthony Davis as well. I think the onus is going to be on guys like Kyle Kuzma and Dennis Schroeder to see what they can do.
I
And I
agree.
think this is going to be a blessing in disguise for the Lakers from the standpoint that, hey, you know what? Let's see what we have more before the trade deadline, because you get an opportunity to see, okay, who's going to step up, who's ready to push all of their chips to the center of the table, so
Right.
to speak, to go out there and do whatever it takes to get it done. I'm looking at it. I'm in total agreement with you in regards to Denver. I think the Nuggets, to me, like throwing out the records, they are the most complete team in the Western Conference. I had this discussion with somebody the other day, and they looked at me sideways when I said that Nikola Jokic is the best big in the NBA. And people looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, you look at him, he
I
can
can
play the
agree.
offensively, he can play the post, he can hit the mid-range shot, he has an outside shot, he can pass, he has great fundamentals. Obviously, of
Right.
course, his defense is a weakness. The European bigs, over the years we really haven't
Right.
seen them play a lot of D. So
Right.
you get what you can from them. I've gone on record in saying this. I think the Nuggets would be better served if they had Michael Porter Jr. coming off the bench, just due to the fact that he would strengthen their bench because they already have so much scoring in
Right.
their starting lineup. You look at Jamal Murray; he's starting to be the Jamal Murray that we saw in the bubble last year. If the Nuggets are going to do anything, Jamal Murray's got to play like he did last year. You know what
That's
I'm saying?
right.
If he,
That's right.
if he's playing like the Jamal Murray we saw for the majority of the season, Denver, their chances are limited. Uh, you look at Phoenix. Phoenix has improved greatly with the addition
Oh,
of Chris
absolutely.
Paul. You know,
Absolutely.
but I'm not sure if they're a playoff team, just due to the fact that I can't get behind a team when your point guard hasn't gotten past the second round, and this dude's been in the NBA since 2005. You look at Utah; they're very fundamentally sound, and
Right.
you cannot take that away from them. My biggest thing with Utah, who's that second guy who's going to step up and consistently get you 20, not named Donovan Mitchell? That's the biggest thing. They don't have,
Rudy Gobert. Rudy's gonna do it.
well, contract wise, yeah, what I'm saying.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But you look at it from the aspect. I mean, Bogdanovich, he's a good addition to them.
I
You
like
know,
him.
you
Good
know,
straight shooter.
right. I mean, they play fundamentally sound, great ball movement coming out of the Utah Jazz. You can't take that away from them. The Clippers, I look at the Clippers, they're an enigma because you look at it,
Right.
you know, your best players typically need to be your hardest workers.
Mhm.
Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are not hard workers. And then on top of that, we've seen a situation more than once this year, for the majority of the year, for that matter. Reggie Jackson and Patrick Beverly are the Clippers starting backcourt. That can't happen. You know what
I
I'm
like
saying?
Brady. Yeah.
If you want to be a championship team, that just doesn't happen. So, I mean, I look at it, I'm kind of with you, man. The Lakers could slip, but it could be good for them because, they could, let's say they slip to that 4 spot in
Mhm.
the first round. Let's say they get the Jazz in the second round. The Lakers versus the Jazz, they can win that series. The Jazz are going to try to run them
Absolutely.
around, on the
Yep.
perimeter, but unless you were the Warriors from a couple of years ago with KD, Steph, and Clay, you can't rely on that perimeter shot so much to win in the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm looking at it, and I'm with you. This could
Mhm.
be right now. This could be a gift and a curse for the Lakers.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking at it from both sides of the, because I've watched a bit of the Lakers. I haven't watched them as much as I usually would. I've been watching a lot of other different teams. But I mean, as you break down the West and you look at it, I think everybody's pretty much where they're supposed to be. I think LeBron having maybe possibly 3 to 3.5 weeks off is good for him and for his body because he needed a rest. I mean, I don't think he wanted to have a rest like this, but he needed to rest. Let him tool up, get ready for the playoffs, and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, without him, the Lakers go nowhere. All right, AD, you need AD, but at the end of the day, LeBron is the catalyst. He's the guy that's going to make it. It's either going to sink or float, or it's going to run right through the water with this guy. But he's the main guy, and I think having him on your team, he's still better than everybody else's best player on their team in the West. So and then the fact that he has multiple skill set, I think that kind of changes the game for the Lakers in a sense where now you got like guys that got to step up, and only they can maybe do one of the things that LeBron does. See, he does them all. So this guy might could pass a little bit. You might see this guy pass a little bit more. This guy might shoot a little bit more. I think we're going to see what the Lakers are made of. You know, their bench, the core of their bench. Montrezl Harrell is a good energy player. I think he plays above what he actually is. But I do think, you know, he's a midget. So at the end of the day, it's going to be like mouse in the house. Turn him around. He can't guard Jokic. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Matter of fact, the Lakers don't have anybody that can guard Jokic, to tell you the truth. And putting Anthony Davis on Jokic is like asking him to foul out, but you need his offense and you need him to stay in the game. So who is the player they put in there, which equals trade? It has to be a trade. I'm not sold on the Lakers winning anything this year unless they get a fortifiable big man, somebody that could, you know, score some baskets, but more so importantly than that, rebound, be able to set some good screens and play good off the ball defense as well as rim protect. They don't have that.
no.
They are soft. I don't think that the Gasol brother is worth an old sock at this point in time. He does nothing for you, bro. He does nothing for you. So, I mean, at the end of the day, he got 6 fouls. That's about all you're gonna get from Marc Gasol. He doesn't look well out there with those guys. I mean, he's looked better in certain games, but as far as him shooting, and all of a sudden you got this old guy that's, you know, a stretch 4 shooting all these stretch 5 shooting all these magical threes, and he's fitting in with the offense. It didn't happen. You know, I think Wes Matthews, there's going to be a place for him to go other than the doghouse in these next week or two before this trade line, because you know, I haven't the trade deadline because I haven't seen anything. Wes Matthews is on the back of a milk carton. I don't know where he is. I need to hear your opinion on Wes.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it, you know, I look at Wes Matthews, I look at some of the additions, so to speak, that you want to talk about with the Lakers this year, ain't the same as last year. You know, they had more of a veteran presence with that club. You know, you had Dwight Howard, you had Rajon Rondo, you had JaVale McGee. And to me, I think, you know, they've taken a step down in every aspect. I look at it, Rondo probably went to the Hawks for the money. Because I mean,
Right.
if you're Rondo, okay, now you have 2 championships, one with Boston and one with the Lakers. So, you know, let me see if I get a couple of bucks.
Right.
You look at it with Dwight, same thing. Dwight wanted to get his ring. He got his ring, and now he's in Philly, with a chance to get one this year. You know,
Mhm.
JaVale McGee, I know there's a possibility, you know, he could get traded from Cleveland.
Right. Right. Right.
You know, you've heard rumors about, you know, Hassan Whiteside possibly going to the Lakers, Andre Drummond going to the Lakers, which would all be, you know, viable like improvements for them in their front court. But you know, I'm with
Absolutely.
you. The West Matthews signing for the Lakers has been a complete non-factor. You know, I mean, you know, you're looking at a guy who was like a perennial uh, defender on the perimeter in his heyday, and now he goes here to LA, and it's just like, you know what? He's just a non-factor. There's no other way to say it right now. The Lakers, they need help on their bench. They need a rim protector. You know what I'm saying? These are the things that they need. And we can see this now in the postseason. It might not be a situation where it hurts them like in that first round series or that second round series. But
Right.
the deeper you go into the postseason, your weaknesses are going to get magnified. And right now, they have a glaring weakness on the defensive end. You talked about AD going up against Nikola Jokic, and it's a situation, you know, people are like, well, can Nikola Jokic stop AD? Listen, to me, I think they're going to cancel each other out. But,
Right. Because that's what happened last year. Right.
but,
They canceled each other.
but Jokic is going to make AD work at that defensive end. And if the outside shot is working for Jokic in that series, that middle opens up because AD's got to come out and cover him. And you have
Right.
no rim protector whatsoever. So the likes of Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, you know what, it's game on as far as getting to the basket because, you know, the Lakers don't have a small guard to run around with Jamal Murray for 48 minutes. So,
Right.
you know, these are things that, you know, you got to look at when you're trying to get back to an NBA championship. And I think, you know, roster wise, the Lakers are definitely not what they were last year. I still believe that they do have enough to get out of the Western Conference as long as LeBron and AD are healthy when the postseason rolls around. And I think they will
Right.
be. But I'm looking at the Lakers. If they are able to get past the Nuggets in the postseason, there could be a problem in the coming from the Eastern Conference, depending on who they play. Whether it be the Nets or the Sixers, especially the Sixers. But I'm looking at it right now. They might be able to survive this more than likely. I look at it. They've lost their last couple of games. Of course, they lost to the Hawks at home. That was a game when LeBron got hurt, and then
Right.
we saw them get taken to the woodshed by Phoenix. And again, Phoenix is a very good team, so this is not like the Lakers got blown out by Detroit or Houston. So,
Right.
but I mean, at the end of the day, somebody's got to step up. Somebody's got to start playing better on that team, because you look at Coach LeBron. Coach LeBron will definitely get in somebody's ear in the front office to try to make a move, because these guys, granted, they've been there right now, but right now they're auditioning for that playoff run. And if LeBron ain't feeling them, somebody's going to get up out of there, man.
Well, I'm gonna tell you like this: the Achilles heel of the Lakers is their 3-point shooting. They one of the worst 3-point shooting teams this year as they were last year. And you look at LeBron at about 36.7% from three this year, up from about 32% last year, I believe. But he's still like 112th in the league out of 160 qualified 3-point shooters. So that tells you he is not a very good 3-point shooter on that type of level. But then you break it down. You go to Dennis Schroeder, he's at about 31, 32%. I believe Wes Matthews is at 30%. Caruso is about, 36% from three. But their best 3-point shooter is Kyle Kuzma, who was at about 41% as of last week. So, and KCP, I believe he was at like 32%. So, I knew this stuff a couple of weeks ago because I had basically watched some things. And, I said, you know what, let me go take a look at the Lakers 3-point shooting, because when they were in the bubble last year, they made the shots they needed to make. They made all the 3-point shots they needed to make. And I think that, aside from their rim protection and them with having the ability to be bigger than everybody else, I think that's why they won the chip. They made their shots, they got their rebounds, and, basically what they did was, I think their defense in the lanes was very important last year. I don't really see it like that this year. How they're still number one or number two in the league in defensive efficiency, I don't know, because I'm not seeing it. I see why the Knicks were number one or something like that, because I've watched the Knicks a lot this year, and I see their energy from their young guys. They're playing for their lives, literally. I can watch the Lakers and see that they're going to lose in the second quarter, and see how, lax they are on man-to-man defense, and I'm not seeing them slip into the lanes to deflect the ball. And so you're talking about a team like, let's say, the New Jersey Nets. They are very good at situational defense, and they are good at being able to deflect the ball. That's one of the few teams that can get away with how they are on defense right now and possibly win the NBA championship, because they put so much pressure on you on offense because of what they have. The Lakers don't have the time to try to figure it out. And Frank Vogel, with his lineups, he hasn't been consistent with the minutes or, the lineup movement, to me, going back to last year. There's no way you start Caruso, I think it was in the game 6 or whatever it was. If that was the case, you should have started Caruso before. So to me, for you to do that in the game 6 of a finals tells me as a coach, you're just trying to get through the day. There's no system in LA. And I'm going to tell you like this, William, all the great teams that won back-to-back and have done this and have done that are systematic basketball teams. The Lakers don't fit in these systems. It seems like LeBron is the system. Do you think they'll go far with LeBron remaining to be the system and not having a certain thing that they do? Now, they're playing defense. They're nowhere as good as they were last year. But I just don't see system in their offense or even their substitution patterns. What do you think?
Well, there is something to that. First of all, from the philosophical aspect, the wolf that is at the top of the mountain is not as hungry as the wolf that is climbing. And the Lakers got to that top of the mountain, and even though LeBron has been to that summit before, it's still the other people around him guys don't understand, how much more difficult it is to come back and win back to back. If it was so easy to repeat as champions, everybody would do it because everybody is gunning for you. And, we saw all of the teams that made deep runs in the bubble last year struggle to start the season. The Celtics, they are still an up and down team. Miami's starting to get it back now that Jimmy Butler is back. The Nuggets have had their struggles as well. But you looked at the Lakers. The Lakers struggled to begin the season, and then they got into that rhythm. And then, of course, first the AD injury, and now the LeBron injury. You look at the LeBron factor in all of this, and I know some people might disagree with me on this. That's fine. Each time, whether it was the Cavs, whether it was the Heat, or now the Lakers, each time LeBron got that championship, the team in the following year was not as good. And it's kind of
Mm.
like, well, did the front office take their foot off of the gas? You look at it from the standpoint that, some of those key role players, they took less money to get that ring and now they're free agents. And they're like, you know what? I want to cash in. And, it happened with Miami. It happened with Cleveland. And, I think we're seeing it right now with the Lakers as well. So, like, this is going to be one of those where if they get the title this year, it's going to be some blood, sweat, and tears more than it was in past years for LeBron to try to get that, to push them over the finish line to get that title. But, it is the LeBron factor because, we've seen for so many years where, number one, some guys just stand around and just like they're in awe of LeBron, even though that they're his
Right,
teammates.
they are right.
Also at the same time, with LeBron, a lot of guys have to adjust their games. Now, with that said, if you adjust your game, you still have a good chance to win a championship. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that to me is part of it as well. But I look at it right now. Overall, I mean, we could say a lot of different things about it. I just don't see the hunger, not from LeBron, but
Absolutely, it's not
not
there.
not from LeBron, but like the people around him, because LeBron, he's still got a lot on his plate because LeBron might not come out and say it publicly, but he's a four-time champion, but he still has a losing record in the NBA Finals, and that's something that people are still going to, like, his detractors are going to talk about. Also, LeBron wants to finish his career as the NBA's all-time leading scorer. And at the same time, LeBron is trying to like just go in there and add, more things to his legacy. Because I mean, say what you want, good or bad, he is one of the greatest players to have ever done it, past, present, or
Oh, no
future.
question.
You know,
Generational talent.
right?
I never had a problem, with his talent. The problem I had with him was in being able to enjoy it because some people, they have this thing where everybody has their favorite athletes. For me, I go per era. I'm not proclaiming any athlete in any sport the best ever to do it. I don't work that way. I go by era because I've been through many eras, the 70s to the 80s to the 90s, 2000s, 2010s to where we are currently. So I've seen a lot in my life. And, I tend to go towards statistics and what you did to a certain extent, but also if I saw you, I had to be able to see you to pass judgment on your game. And I usually do that when a player's retired. But I don't recall any player being, before they retire, given the crown of the best player ever. Nah. They tried to deal with Michael Jordan, but that's a whole nother situation which we're not talking about. Currently LeBron is the face of the NBA. He is, to me, the most impactful player in the league by far. Probably one of the smartest guys to lace him up in the history. I'll give him that. IQ wise, you can't teach that. You got to be born with that. So this is why he probably got away for so long without being in the system because LeBron was the system, and I kind of, I understand it. But looking back into the Western Conference at the moment, I'm looking from 1 to 8, and I'll just go down again. You got the Jazz, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Blazers, the Spurs, and the Mavs, 1 through 8. I think any of them teams can knock each other off on a good day. Whereas if you go to the Eastern Conference, you'll see the 76ers, the Nets, and the Bucks. And that's where it stops right there. Because then you got the Hawks and all these guys with similar records. You got 5 other teams with very similar records. Any of them could, to me, none of those teams are going to win a championship. None of them are going to truly contend in the Eastern Conference. You know, the Knicks are good, the Celtics are good, the Heat, they might get hot. You know, you're looking at the Hornets in the number 8 spot. Those teams are young. They're just still learning how to win, most of those teams. So they won't be major factors in who comes out of the East. It'll be the top 3 teams. And I think any of those top three teams in the East can surely contend with Phoenix, Utah, and the Lakers. You know, as far as in the finals, I'm not sold on the Bucks though. You know, I think I call them the reindeer. The reindeer game, I'm not sold on. Somebody's gonna have to do something or fool me, or somehow, you know, make me believe that Giannis is not a walking charge, because his game is built on that. And it's just, you just don't, it's something missing there, and I'm not sold. So you're looking really at Philadelphia, who, if Joel Embiid comes back and it continues to impact the game in the way he has, and the shooters they picked up and the defenders they picked up, they're going to be a problem. I definitely agree with that. I think that the Nets are going to be the biggest problem. That's just my opinion. And the thing about when you talk about the Nets, and I remember the Nets, they lost the game a couple of weeks ago. And the only people I heard talking about that game were Laker fans, because they are severely threatened by the Nets and by Philadelphia. The Laker fans are severely threatened. And I'm like this, to have good basketball, you know, you got to have formidable allies. And if you go back to the Eastern Conference before LeBron shifted, he was the Eastern Conference. It couldn't beat LeBron. All the guys that could beat him were retired. So you think about it. Kawhi, he got a chip. I'm still not sold on him. But you look at it now, and you look at the parity in the West, yo, anybody could get it from 1 to 8. What's your opinion on the bottom half of the Western Conference being formidable come playoff time?
Listen, I'm in total agreement with you on that because, I mean, listen, we saw some of that in the bubble last year because, you know, the Clippers really should have got bumped out in the first round by the Mavericks because
Absolutely.
Dallas outplayed them in that series. And, they called themselves putting it on cruise control, after game 4 against, Denver. And of course they paid for it. So I'm with you on
Right.
that. You look at the Warriors, the Warriors are not a championship team right now. Of course, no Klay Thompson this year. But, they're still going to give somebody a scare in that playoff series. I mean, I'm thinking about it. A Phoenix versus Golden State first round series would be very interesting.
But they're number 9 right now. They're
Right.
number 9. I
Mhm.
don't know how many teams are they letting into the playoffs this year?
They 8, and I think they might be doing that play-in game again this year. So I mean, if that said, you might have a scenario where, let's say, hey, Golden State plays Dallas. Golden State could beat that Dallas in that one game for all we know, and next they they slide in. You look at the San Antonio Spurs, very fundamental basketball, and I don't think that enough people give the Spurs organization credit for this. Spurs entered the NBA in 1976 following the merger of the ABA.
That's correct.
The Spurs have only missed the NBA playoffs 5 times. That's phenomenal.
Right.
The Clippers are definitely going to be there, but the Clippers, to me, they play when they want to. Like when I see the Clippers, they remind me so much of the UConn Huskies men's team from 2006. They had Rudy Gay, Josh Boone, Marcus
I remember that.
Williams,
That's
right?
correct.
And they played when they wanted to, and then of course, what happened when they got to the regional final? They lost to George Mason, and the rest was history. This Clippers team reminds me of them. We talked about the Jazz. We talked about the Suns, and it's like the thing is the Suns have improved. I can't get behind a team when your best player in Devin Booker's never been to the playoffs, and then you bring in a veteran presence like Chris Paul. Chris Paul's been in the NBA since 2005, and his brother has not gotten past the second round. This dude has never even seen a conference finals. So, all of that factors in for me. Portland to me is an enigma because, Portland, they can look good in a series, but they can also look very bad. But I mean, you got Carmelo, the scoring aspect, but Carmelo's going to score, but he ain't gonna play a lick of D. We know that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, I'm looking at it. Those teams are going to beat each other up. So again,
Right.
you
Right.
know, I mean, again, my biggest thing is, the Lakers versus the Nuggets, because I really, I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. I think Denver is the most formidable foe that the Lakers have in the West. Now in the East, I'm in agreement with you on that. Out of all those teams that are mashed up together, I think the only team that has a chance to make an impact is Miami. Number one,
Agreed.
if Miami is healthy. Number two, Miami plays that D, and that is why Miami was able to make the run to the NBA Finals that they did last year, because they played that D. Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Butler gave up a lot of size to Giannis, but he took Giannis completely out of his game. And again, in talking about Milwaukee, I'm there with you. When you cannot run a half court offense consistently, you're not going to win in the postseason. Giannis's whole thing is playing bully ball and trying to debo people in transition to get to the basket. That ain't
Right.
going to work, because now we have a situation with Milwaukee. You've turned Brook Lopez into a 7'2" guard. You know what I mean? And it's just like, so he's a non-factor close to the basket. And again, they cannot run a half court set. To me, it comes down to the Nets or the Sixers, and both of those teams would be a problem for the Lakers. I mean, you look at it, Joel Embiid, one of the best bigs, one of the best players in the NBA when he's healthy. It's just a matter of keeping him healthy. That's that.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
Yep.
Credit to Doc Rivers because Doc Rivers has come in to Philly, and Doc Rivers has not tried to make Ben Simmons that he's something he's not. All of these people, want to see Ben Simmons shoot 3-point shots. Ben Simmons is not a shooter. You know what I'm saying? But you know what? Ben Simmons, he's playing point guard, but he's really more of a small forward. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
because of his height, it's like the problem is a lot of people, with his ball handling skills, and he's 6'11" right off the bat, people want to compare him to Magic Johnson. There's only one Magic Johnson. You know what I'm saying? And there probably will never be another one in our lifetime. It's a situation where Doc is not trying to make Ben Simmons be something that he's not. So we need outside shooting. So what do? We bring in Seth Curry. Okay, we already had Tobias, who's pretty good as a perimeter shooter, and then you also pick up Danny Green. They got a veteran big in Dwight Howard, so they have that size factor, and again, they have a rim protector in Dwight. So it's like you're not gonna stop LeBron, of course, because playoffs, you can just pencil in LeBron for 35. He'll get that in his sleep.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a given. So it's like, okay, LeBron's going to get his 35. Is it going to be an easy 35, or are you going to make him work to get that 35? That's going to be the biggest factor.
Right.
Philly and Doc Rivers teams traditionally, they have that defensive factor. So I think right there, that would be, a matchup issue for the Lakers. Moving forward to the Brooklyn Nets. To me, I think the Achilles heel of the Nets is their defense or lack thereof, it, because the Nets simply don't play D. They go out there and they try to, outscore you. You look at it, KD when he's healthy, him and LeBron are gonna cancel each other out, because granted, in those two series when they played each other in the finals, when KD was with the Warriors and of course LeBron was with Cleveland, LeBron did his thing, especially in that 2017. I think LeBron either
You are
averaged
correct.
either
You are.
averaged a triple double or he was close to a triple double, but of course,
The
go
MVP of that series.
right.
That's just my opinion.
Right, right. It was just the fact that Golden State has so many weapons. Like that. That's what it came down to. But you look at it, they're going to basically cancel each other out. AD would definitely get his in that series. But I look at it, it's the Kyrie factor, because I can't even say James Harden, because we've seen James Harden so many times over the years just pack up and fold up shop in those clutch situations. Whether it was when he was in the finals in
He got pregnant.
OKC,
Yeah,
so
he
many
got pregnant.
times, right? So many times that they were up 3-2 on the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, they lost. We saw them, he needed a closeout game, or he needed to force a game 7 with the Rockets against the
Couldn't do it.
Spurs and Kawhi was hurt, and Kawhi didn't play that game, and still the Spurs took him to town. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can't really sit up there and like count on James Harden to all of a sudden be that guy for you in those clutch moments. So I'm looking at it, the X factor would have to be Kyrie Irving, because you look at Kyrie, and Kyrie just wants to prove that he can do it without LeBron. Now, for that to work, Kyrie would still have to play in the role of the system, okay? Because, you know, when Kyrie gets in that zone, Kyrie can play 1-on-5 ball. But I also think what would be a factor that would hurt the Nets in that scenario, we already talked about their lack of defensive prowess. Also, you know, I look at it, close game. You know, are you really going to rely on Steve Nash to go in there and be an X's and O's guy for you? No, you're definitely going to lean on Mike D'Antoni, but you know, Mike D'Antoni is not known for his defense. So what are you going to do when you need to make a stop? That's the biggest thing for me. You know, the Nets try to go out there and outscore you and get 130 points a night, but that ain't going to work in the postseason every single night. There's going to be nights where your jump shots are not there. So then what do? So I mean, so with that said, I think Philly coming out of the East would definitely be the biggest hindrance that would stand between LeBron and getting the 5th title this year.
Okay. Well, to me, with Philly and with Embiid, I mean, if he could stay healthy and the way they've been playing, I just want to see them be able. If they can beat the Nets, then I would look at them. I would take them a little bit more serious because Philly, I've never been sold on Philly either. Doc Rivers, I'm not. You know, I respect Doc and what he means to the game and everything. But hold up, dude, you done had way too many great teams and had this every time you lost. So I'm not throwing all my cookies into Doc's hat. I'm not having that. All right, he's to me, he's a good regular season coach. You know, and to me, when it comes down to making decisions in the clutch and in the playoffs, he's failed himself. You know, some of the moves that he made, even going back to last year, and the disconnect that, you know, he continues to have with players over, you know, his time, key star players, and they tune him out and they do what they do, and then they lose where they probably were going to lose anyway because Doc, he's only going to keep your attention but for so long. Let me just keep it with you.
Right.
You know, and this is what, you know, former players have said. Like I said, I respect Doc for what he has done, but I'm not sold. All right, Steve Nash, as a coach so far, from where the Nets have came to where they are, it's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's a work in progress. This is the first year seeing that. No, the Nets don't play any defense. But I do believe, as you said, when the playoffs come and things starting to tighten up a little bit, that's when your guy Kyrie is going to get busy the most. You know what I'm saying? Because once they start packing it in, and, you know, the Nets got guys that can shoot, that's going to open it back up, and then you go ISO. Can't nobody really stop James Harden. He can do whatever he wants to do. I'm not even talking about him. KD is a smart 30 points. He doesn't need a lot of shots to be efficient. But you get Kyrie going, it's a problem. To me, I don't have a problem with anything he does so much on the court because the guy's a special talent. He has the ability to take over. And the way the Nets are designed, if you've been watching them, you know, that's Kyrie's role. His role is to give you 40 a night and step on your neck. James Harden could do whatever he does, but, you know, he's the best distributor of the basketball in New Jersey. And he can really, 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 really get that team going. He could do it in shifts with different players, or he could do it by himself. So, to me, the Nets, they'll win or bust. And if they don't win, this would be probably one of the biggest busts in NBA history, without question. You guys got a crew that you can only get on PlayStation. You can't. You're only going to get that crew on PlayStation. You're not really. That's like a dream come true for Net fans. Like, guys were calling me when they got all of them together, and I was like, and I was one of the naysayers. You know, there's not enough basketballs. I thought Kyrie was going to get traded. I thought it was trade bait because I didn't see the point of them needing to have James Harden and, you know, and Kyrie. But then when I saw James Harden and KD doing what they were doing without Kyrie, you look at certain places in the offense, you're like, yeah, they need that dude. They really, really need that dude. You know what I'm saying? So, to me, I think they'll be better at situational defense. They ain't going to give you 48 minutes of defense. They're not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? But they'll give you some situational defense. And I think sometimes it's not going to be about them outscoring you. They're going to have to clamp down come playoff time. Bro. That's a fact.
Yeah, you know, they will. But you know what? I'll tell you the same thing that I've told other people in the past. Defensive basketball is a mindset. You can't go from this narrative to this narrative all of a sudden and think that you're going to be a good defensive team. It doesn't work like that. You have to mesh together as the season progresses. And the Nets are, that's not who they are in a nutshell. Of course, especially when you're factoring in, both Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni sitting on that bench. That's something that consistently hurt or has hurt, Mike D'Antoni throughout his coaching career. And I keep putting the name of
Not
Mike
so.
D'Antoni. I keep putting the name of Mike D'Antoni into this mix from the standpoint that it's like, yes, Steve Nash is a head coach by title, but Mike D'Antoni for me is making the majority of the decisions over that bench because he's been there and done that. And of course, when Kyrie made that announcement earlier this season where we don't need a head coach. I'm like, well, you know what? That's really not looking good for Steve Nash. And that was even before the season started. But I mean, the Nets, what I've seen from the Nets so far this year is when they play the big boys of the NBA, the Milwaukee's, the Lakers, the Sixers, teams like that, they come to play. But, when they play the teams that they're supposed to beat, the Raptors, the Timberwolves, for an example. I'm just throwing these teams out there. Some of the
Right.
teams that are not going to be playoff bound clubs, they don't like the intensity level drops several levels. And I think that's something where the Nets need to really work on is, they got to come bring it every single night. And,
Agreed.
what I'm saying? So I look at it like that. I think they're going to be extremely cautious with Kevin Durant because let's not forget KD missed the entire season last year recovering
Right.
from that Achilles injury. Not an easy injury to come back from. And the Nets, they have a lot on the table because obviously they are looking at big picture as well as far as like getting to that championship. And like you said, it's going to be championship or bust because you have three superstars on your team and of course two of them already have championships. So like when you come to a big media market like New York City, those expectations go through the roof. So you better put up. So I look at it, I think the Nets will be primed and poised, to make a run in the postseason. Again, I still say that they are not a complete team, and that could get exposed in the postseason. I still say the most complete team in that Eastern Conference is Philly, and either the Nets or Philly, could be, a big factor, as far as like, preventing LeBron from getting a fifth title this year. But
Right.
like I'm probably it's kind of like 1 and 1A because you look at the Embiid factor for Philly. I'm with you with Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers tends to wear out his welcome with teams, and that's naturally going to happen. And I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for 2009 and 2010 with the Celtics for not getting the rings due to the fact, okay, the KG injury in 2009, and of course they didn't let you know how bad it was. And then 2010, when Kendrick Perkins, injured his knee in Game 6 in that series versus the Lakers, and that was a tremendous series, one of the best final series I ever saw. But after that, some of the choke jobs that he had, with the
Oh yeah.
Clippers, what I'm saying, like, listen, you're not going to be able to run away from that, bro.
Nah, man.
So, you look at it, Doc better do his thing. And I mean, I think the time for Philly to strike is right now because coaches in general, their message gets lost in the wash eventually. And I think it happens quicker for Doc Rivers than it does for other coaches. So Doc needs to go out there and do his thing now. So I think the onus is on him. The onus is definitely on the Nets because, like you said, championship or bust. The onus is on the Lakers because, LeBron wants to repeat and LeBron wants to get number 5. You know what I'm saying? Um, and the thing is, as LeBron gets older, no matter how gifted that he is as far as a basketball player, those championships are going to get tougher because,
That's right.
LeBron has a lot of mileage on him. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about a guy, 10 NBA finals, multiple, Olympic appearances as well, a lot of minutes in the regular season. That's a lot of running up and down on the court on your body. And he's been doing it since he was 18 as a professional, not to mention AAU and high school ball. That's a lot of wear and tear, brother.
You know,
So yeah.
that's why he sleeps in that tent outside in the backyard
Hmm.
to get everybody together. And he has a hyperbaric tent in the backyard, a hyperbaric chamber in the living room, one in the bathroom. So, you know, he's taking care of his body, I guess, wherever he can do it. And it was funny because I saw that. I was like, yo, normally I would say that's weird, but like when you have played as much as he has, you got to take any edge or anything you could get to continue to play at a high level. Um, I don't think I've seen anybody his age play on the level that he's playing. So you got to give the guy kudos for that. And, you know, trying to work on his game and get better in different aspects of his game. And also the thing with LeBron is to develop someone because over all the years and time since he's been in the league, he's never really helped develop any player. Can you think of one, William?
Oh
You can
no, not like
maybe no. He has always been, you know, get me who I need. You know, if you can't get this one, get rid of that one. He never took a young player that was in his prime that was an all-star. And, you know, because he had Kyrie, he had Kevin Love, you know, you go to those Heat teams, those was veteran guys. Like he always had veteran guys. It was never a young stud that he took and put him under his arm and helped this kid develop his game. I've never seen LeBron do that. This is the first time, so he's teaching AD how to win, as well as how to take care of himself and last for the, you know, to have the longevity in the league that, you know, we hope AD has because he's another one that's severely injury prone. You know,
well,
but LeBron is teaching them how to win. You can see some of the stuff rubbing off from last year to this year. But I've never seen him develop anybody. And to me, that is, you know, that comes along with being a great player. You know, we can say the same thing about a Kobe Bryant. But what I'm going to say about Kobe is he developed the whole team. Because them two teams he won with, they shouldn't even been there. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, those two last two chips Kobe won, man, those are terrible teams, man. Those are just not. That's just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And I think Boston gave one away. So, you know, to keep it 100 with you, you know, you got to be able to develop somebody. And I think, you know, having people look past the fact that you're the best player, you know, in the league and you're LeBron, look past that and see, even if he's not teaching you what you can learn from this guy, you know, because he has a lot to offer. And I think one day he could be an excellent coach if he wants to, or a team owner, or whatever the case may be, because his IQ in the sense of basketball is out of this world. I think that's his greatest asset, more so than his physical abilities, knowing where to be, how to do what you need to do to put somebody else in position and take the ball, have the balls to give another person a chance to win the game when everybody wants you to do it. You know, you can knock it or you can like it. For me, it's certain times where LeBron you got to go, bro. You can't pass that rock. And there's certain times where that might be the better play than you going. So it's a mixture of it, you know, for me. And I just want to see the Lakers, regardless of what happens over these next couple of games, next 15, 20 games, I want to see them play together and not finger point. Don't worry about what you don't have or who's not there. Next man up. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what they do. And now all of a sudden you go from having a really great team with your two stars to having a very average team with the core players they got. They got a very average team. And we didn't speak about KCP either because he's another guy that has went into the closet and closed the door behind him. And I don't know what that's about. Your opinion on KCP?
listen, man, he's another dude that he's been MIA this year, and I look again. I'm in total agreement with you. These guys are gonna have to step up now. It's put up or shut up time. And I'm like, you listen, you like if you're on the Lakers right now, you know that you're going to be a postseason team. But guess what? All of those spots aren't guaranteed because somebody can get traded between now and now and the deadline. Because I guarantee LeBron, whether he's sitting courtside or he's in a suite there or he's at his home watching the game on his couch, whatever. LeBron's going to be analyzing this, and LeBron's going to sit back and watch this, and he's going to see who's going to be ready, who's not going to be ready, for prime time in the postseason.
That's
And
correct.
that's
That's correct.
something when he
Correct.
when he went back to Cleveland back in 2014, it was a situation. Okay, of course the Cavs already had Kyrie. He
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go out there and play with Kevin Love. And for me, I think those two guys, they were ready to play with LeBron, but they weren't ready, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you look at both guys prior to playing with LeBron, they had never been to the postseason. And when you play with a guy like LeBron, the expectation level and the pressure is ratcheted up. And I think
Absolutely.
that's a reason. I think for me, that's a reason why, after LeBron left Cleveland and Kevin Love decided to play there, because like decided to stay in Cleveland, because it's like, hey, listen, LeBron is gone. I've survived that. Kevin Love has been,
That's
he's been
yeah,
a tremendous ambassador for mental health, and I have all of the
yeah, he's a good.
props for him in the world for doing that, because a lot of people in this world suffer from mental health issues, and it's the pressure factor. Everybody, and I'm not taking anything away from Kevin Love. Everybody is not equipped for that, and Kyrie. You look at Kyrie. Kyrie, I think he never I think he never was okay being the second fiddle to LeBron. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason, I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but I just think that he was never, comfortable being, the second guy behind him.
Mhm.
To be a championship team, you need a good level of chemistry. And it worked for LeBron when he was in Miami, due to the fact that, it was him, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. Him and Dwayne Wade have always been boys for the longest time, and they still remain boys. So, Dwayne Wade in Miami and that Pat Riley aspect, they showed LeBron what it took to be a champion. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
LeBron and Dwayne Wade are like this. Chris Bosh, Chris Bosh knew his role, because he's like, listen, Chris Bosh sacrificed his game because he was no longer a post guy. He played more on the perimeter, got boards, and he was a solid defender for a big. But it takes a special person to play with LeBron, because more than likely, if you're a star, you're gonna have to
You
cite.
sacrifice your game. That's right. Yep.
Correct, correct. You know what I'm saying? AD didn't have to do it as much, due to the fact that it was only him and LeBron. It was like, okay, if it was a situation like they went out there and gotten Kawhi as well, or Paul George, okay, might have been a different story. But you look at it right now, LeBron showed him what it took to get to the next level. And I think AD's already a winner, because we saw him win a national title at Kentucky. We saw him be a part of an Olympic team as well. But he really didn't do anything in the postseason. Of course, all those years in New Orleans, and of course, he wanted to get out. He wanted to play with LeBron, and of course, when you're playing with a great player like LeBron, all of a sudden, those nagging injuries that you were dealing with are out of the window. I think now, AD is one of those guys.
Right.
He's got to learn what it takes, to get back to that championship level. Because you remember, after he won in Kentucky, he was one and done. He went to the NBA, first overall
Right.
pick by
Right.
by uh, by New Orleans. But it's a little bit different, to get that championship that first time and try to go back. And that's why,
It is.
we rarely see teams repeat, regardless of the sport.
Yeah, and it's real tough to do. And I'll tell you, I believe that my electronic device is failing me. Um, in fact, I know it is. And I got to tell you that I've enjoyed our talk and the discussion about the Los Angeles Lakers in particular. I think this is the most I've talked about the Los Angeles Lakers since about 2017. I had a roundtable discussion on another sports show that we did, and I discussed them. Excuse me, not the Lakers. That was the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Warriors. LeBron James, I'm talking. That was 2017. I don't really get to talk too much LeBron James because it seems like all the people want to talk about him, but you can't get an honest uh, conversation like we're having about LeBron James. But we'll notice we're talking about the Lakers because to me, there is no I in team. You need your team in order to win. No matter how good you are, there has to be, some continuity between people and to get a common goal and what role you play in that, that championship and how you're going to win. You know, um, so I hate when I hear people talk, well, LeBron did this last night. Okay, he did this, but did they win? Oh, they didn't win. The teammates didn't do this, didn't do that. No, 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 no. You take the good, the bad, and the ugly, and you roll it together, and you accept these people for what they are. And if LeBron is going to have the type of success that he needs to have to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or to get 3 or 4 more titles, you got to find out who you can work with and who's willing to work with you and accept whatever role they're going to play, and y'all win and go play ball. and it has to be that way. That's just my opinion, William. That's just my opinion on it. And
No, definitely,
I
man.
thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about it and enjoy this call right here, what we're doing. But I'm gonna have to tell you, we're gonna have to pick it up because a little man just came and waved in my screen and said, goodbye. So I know I'm good.
Yeah. You know,
I know I'm gone. You
you got
know,
you got the Dikembe Mutombo treatment there. No.
yeah. It's a wrap. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So we'll definitely pick it up. Once again, I enjoyed you having me. I'm willing to come and talk to you anytime you want to talk. About any and everything. I would like to discuss the Mets with you one day, and hopefully that's something we can get to. It kind of, just kind of change the proverbial monkey in the room, which is always basketball. Everybody wants to talk basketball, but we do a little bit more than that just between us personally. So
Right.
yeah, I'll look forward to it. And I want to tell everybody out there, thank you for having me. And you enjoy the night, William. We will talk, brother.
As always, peace, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Peace.
So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge show here on YouTube. I want to thank all of the subscribers out there. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. Take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.